Are you sitting yourself to death? Did you know that prolonged sitting is actually associated with early mortality? Meaning that the more you sit, the more likely you are to die earlier. The more often that you're sedentary and have sedentary postures, the more you are inclined to suffer from an early death. Hey guys, I'm Dr. Krista with the American Posture Institute, and today we're talking about sitting disease. I want to go through a few research studies with you to demonstrate the importance, the imminent danger of having sitting disease, of how it's directly correlated to early mortality. And then, of course, I want to provide you some solutions of how you can increase more activity, or NEAT, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis, throughout your workday, so that we can help you prevent sitting disease and, of course, prevent all the ill health effects associated with early mortality and poor health with sitting disease. So the first research study is this, that time spent seated is positively associated with early mortality. Even high levels of moderate to vigorous activity is not enough to offset being sedentary for prolonged periods of time while watching TV. So what this is saying is that we see a direct correlation, meaning that the more time you spend seated, the more likely you are to suffer from early mortality. But here's the thing, is that it's showing that even if you perform moderate to vigorous activity per day for physical activity, it's still not enough to offset the ill health effects of sitting disease. Meaning that if you go do a workout in the morning, or maybe you do a workout in the evening, doing a 30-minute to hour-long workout is not enough if you're still seated more than 8 hours per day. So recognize that the solution then is not just to do a 1-hour exercise session per day, it's that plus integrating more activity throughout your workday as well, and reducing the amount of time seated. Now, the second research study shows that there's a correlation between sitting time and mortality from all causes, including cardiovascular disease. The risk is independent of leisure time physical activity. So this is a very similar research study demonstrating, again, that the more time you spend seated, the more likely you are to die early. And this is from all causes of mortality, including cardiovascular disease. Now, one of the things that we know for sure with sitting disease is that it does increase the susceptibility or predisposition to having obesity. And we also understand that obesity is directly correlated to cardiovascular disease. So again, the solution is to, and this is saying again that it's not dependent upon physical time activity. So when you have your leisure time, it is very good to do physical activity. But in addition to that, during our 8-hour workday, we need to increase the amount of time that we spend on our feet, walking around and performing non-exercise activities that stimulate non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Now, the third research study says that to reverse mortality associated with prolonged sitting, the solution is to stop sitting as much by doing more non-exercise activities throughout the day. Again, a very similar research study, but the reason I'm showing you multiple studies is because I want you to understand the direct impact that sitting has on, and asking yourself, are you sitting yourself to death? So the solution then is to go to the gym, yes, of course, to eat healthy, absolutely. But in addition to that, throughout your workday, just being seated for 8 hours per day in a poor posture is absolutely declining your ability to have a nice longevity of your lifespan. So throughout the day, integrating more movements that are going to stimulate increased caloric expenditure. And then the final research study says that women who sat for more than 8 hours per day and did not meet physical activity guidelines had an increased risk of dying within the next 9 years. So this was an interesting research study specifically for women. And what it was saying is that if women sit more than 8 hours per day and they're not meeting their physical activity needs, again, not just going to the gym for an hour per day, but in addition to that, being physically active throughout their workday, then they are more likely to die within the next 9 years. So really interesting research study, and we understand at this point that there's a direct correlation between sitting disease, prolonged sedentary behaviors, prolonged poor posture while seated, and early mortality. So what is the solution then to take an active stand against sitting disease? We understand that we want to prevent sitting disease so that we can increase the longevity of our lifespan. So the first solution is a stand-capable workspace. So you can see an example of a stand-capable workspace here. So this is the ability to perform work while standing or while seated. Now, the solution to offset sitting disease is not to stand for 16 hours per day. The solution is frequent change in posture, meaning that you're going from seated to standing and standing to seated throughout your work day. So the more that you get up and sit down and you spend about 1/3 of your time seated versus 2/3 2/3 of your time standing, that's going to be a great ratio for you to strive for to increase your non-exercise activity thermogenesis throughout the day. So stand-capable workspaces provide a great solution for you to be able to stand up more often but not lose that productivity that we're striving for at work. Now, there's a lot of different options for stand-capable workspaces. Now, if you are not ready to commit to an ergonomic desk, for example, which is a great investment, a huge ROI, but if, for example, you just want to try this out, start by putting your computer up on books, or by utilizing things within your current workspace that you can prop up your workspace so that you can stand up more often throughout your workday. Okay, I do recommend getting a stand-capable workspace that is ergonomically designed, but at least to get started, start determining how you can stand up more often by utilizing the resources that you already have. Number 2 is walk and talk for meetings. So if you guys have a lot of meetings throughout the day, can you hop on the phone and just take a walk while you're doing your meeting? Now, it's not to say that you need to be out of breath while on the meeting, but just moving your body. Also, if you need to meet with a colleague, why not go take a walk around the office or take a walk outside? Instead of just being seated there, you guys can both be up moving around while you're doing your meeting. So walk and talk. And then active sitting. So while sitting, it's important that you have active sitting capabilities. So you can see here that this woman has an exercise ball to sit on. This woman here is performing activities while seated. So active sitting means that you're performing more movement while sitting instead of just plopping down in your chair in poor posture. So one of my favorite recommendations is to utilize an exercise ball to sit on for active sitting, and or to utilize a posture cushion. Posture cushions are similar to exercise balls, but they're very thin, meaning that instead of replacing your whole work chair like this woman has done here, which is a good solution, but if you don't feel that you have the ability of doing that in your workspace, then you can get a posture cushion that you can place on top of your seat so that you're more active throughout your workday. And then the last recommendation is posture fit desk exercises. So look at this woman here. She's seated in her workspace, but she's taking a couple minutes per hour and she's performing exercises and stretches. So there's a lot of exercises that you can do from your workspace. You don't have to go to the gym to exercise. Keep in mind that just by moving more throughout the day, you're going to prevent sitting disease. So you can do neck stretches, you can do figure eights with the wrist, you can do leg extensions under your desk, you can do ankle circles, ankle figure eights. These are all examples of ways to increase movement throughout the day by doing posture fit desk exercises that doesn't require you, changing your outfit and leaving work and going to the gym. You can still have that high level of productivity at work, but you're interjecting more movement throughout the day to prevent the ill health effects associated with sitting disease. You guys understand at this point that increased prolonged sedentary behaviors are directly correlated with early mortality. Together we can take an active stand against sitting disease. Again, the solutions are a stand-capable workspace, to walk and talk during your meetings, to have active sitting solutions, and to utilize your desk for posture fit desk exercises throughout your workday. All right, guys, join us in taking an active stand against sitting disease on our mission to eradicate sitting disease.